Hi guys, Chello bus driver here again. Welcome to my third ever build video. As mentioned before, it's not something I normally do, but this was a requested one by a couple of our amazing community members. So I'm more than happy and honored to be able to showcase it all for you today. This build is currently my favorite and most fun build in my loadout, and it's what helps me contribute to the squad when we're doing legendaries. But it is also quite versatile when doing speedrun heroics, and I'm excited to explain my thought process behind why I use the pieces I use. Now for a disclaimer, there are many other versions of this build, and yes, this might not be the best out there, but it sure works amazingly for me and my playstyle, and it's taken us through at least 30 to 40 legendaries by now, so it holds its own. I hope that this will at least give those trying to make a crowd control build just a good guideline to follow when they're making theirs. So here we go, the legendary CC build. This is the almost finished product of weeks of waiting for the right pieces to drop. 2 weeks ago, my build looked like this. This one, however, is as close as we want to get to my idea of a CC build. It's a 3-piece China Light, 2-piece Wyvern with a Golan mask. This is the best combination I've been able to put together thus far with the pieces I have. Let's start with the mask. Shout out to Sheldon in our clan for sharing this mask with me. It dropped in one of the raid assists we were doing, and he was kind enough to toss it my way. Not the highest rolls, but it had all yellows, so I was able to roll the blue core attribute away for another yellow to ensure skill tier 6 for this build. The one-piece Golan also gives you plus 10% status effects, and as you'll see with this piece and the next few pieces of gear, this is what you want to spec into: status effects and skill haste. Then a China Light chest piece with Unbreakable. It unfortunately came with repair skills, but I was able to still roll skill haste on it and add another skill haste slot. The 3-piece China Light works well. As you can see, there's extra skill haste and status effects, and that's what the build revolves around. Now this is where the build can go one of 20 ways. I've seen people use things like a 4-piece hardwire for the quick cooldowns. I myself have tried various talents like Trauma and Overwatch, but after giving them all a chance, Unbreakable outshone them all. This is why. In a legendary setting, you generally have one CC in the team that is tasked to keep the NPCs under status effect. The other players are squishy, generally speaking, as they end up having to run DPS. The problem comes in that number one, because you're running a Jammer Pulse and a Blinder Firefly, there's no way you can revive yourself if you go down. And number two, if you go down during a wave of NPCs that, mind you, hit like a truck and don't get picked up quick enough, chances are high that the rest of the team will wipe, as there's no one to keep the ads under status effect. So my reasoning behind Unbreakable is twofold. Number one, I have extra survivability, which allows me to play a more active role and not live behind cover all the time. And number two, I'm not a burden to my team by going down all the time. My own survivability is paramount to the team's success, so it gives them peace of mind to know that I will for the most part try to stay alive. Emphasis on try. There's another reason, but I'll get back to that later. Basically, my recommendation is run Unbreakable on the chest. You will thank me later. The holster I've ended up settling with for now is the Wyvern. It's the highest rolled one I have of the lot, and I've taken advantage of the extra 10% status effects that the 2-piece allows. Now yes, there are other holsters you can use. I just don't have high enough rolls on them to justify it. You can, if you like, try a 1-piece Hannah U, which also rewards plus 10% skill haste. Or like what some YouTubers are recommending, the improvised holster, which is amazing if you're lucky enough to craft one with god rolls. The great thing about this holster is that even though it's a no-name brand, it allows for 4 slots So in theory, you could craft a 4 yellow slotted holster, which might be better than an actual branded piece. I, however, have tried crafting about 50 of them and haven't been lucky enough to get a high enough rolled one, so I've settled for the Wyvern, which works just fine. Knee pads, China Light, Skill Haste, and Status Effects. Gloves, China Light, Skill Haste, Status Effects. Do you see a pattern developing here? And finally, a Wyvern backpack with another amazing talent, Creeping Death. Applying a status effect, it's applied to targets within 8 meters of that target with a 15-second cooldown. It's actually gotten a buff in TU9, as it used to be 5 meters with a 20-second cooldown. Again, you're welcome to try other talents here. I've tried Galvanized, but again, I advise Creeping Death for legendaries, as the White Tusk are very tactical and don't bunch up easily. It's a great form of insurance as well if you weren't able to mark all the enemies before you threw out the Blinder Firefly, as the talent will compensate for the missed enemies. Let's move on to the skills. A Jammer Pulse with 13-second duration and 14-second cooldown. The cooldowns will be better with better skill haste mod slots, increasing your skill haste on your watch or throwing your skill from cover if you use the Survivalist Specialization. I'll come to that as well, but for now all you want to see is that your duration is always longer than your cooldown. Also, you need this build to be skill tier 6 at least to benefit from your tier 6 rewards and max out the skill. In the mod slots I have effect duration and radius buffs. And then probably the single most important skill in these legendary missions, the Blinder Firefly. 21-second cooldown with 23-second duration. Tier 6 of course, which allows you to mark 6 more targets, giving me up to 10 targets to mark. In the slots I have Skill Haste, Blind Effect Duration, and +1 max targets. With a maxed out build or hardwired, you'd be getting better cooldowns as mentioned before, but you'd be sacrificing your survivability by not having Unbreakable and a decent talent on your backpack. So I'm happy to live with this. Bear in mind also that you can increase your duration by proccing Perpetuation. So that leads us to the weapons. You can go with any weapon here as your primary. I'm an LMG guy, so I've gone with the EV Negev. The talent is what's important on the weapon, namely Perpetuation. Headshots grant plus 50% status effect damage, and more importantly, for the build, status effect duration to the next status effect you apply. So when I enter a fight, I deploy both my skills, then mark an enemy with a headshot to benefit from Perpetuation on my next deployment, then switch to my secondary weapon, which now currently happens to be my favorite weapon in the game. Okay, maybe second best to my Bullet King. The amazing thing about this build is that I barely even fire it, but it's what completes the build and what makes this build so much fun. Credit to another great member of our clan, Enrique Barta, who recommended it when I started putting a CC build together. Who would have thought that it would actually have such a great purpose and add light moments to our legendary runs? The talent on the Sweet Dreams allows me, as the CC guy, who remember doesn't do any damage whatsoever, to melee a non-elite NPC, and there are lots of them in legendary missions.
Run. Run. Run.
It's like a game of cat and mouse when you're out there just waiting for the cooldown to be over so you can go seek and swipe a tanky purple or red NPC. I mean, who doesn't like a free kill? This is where the build ties up with Unbreakable on the chest, as you are allowed to be adventurous when running in for that epic melee. NPCs, however, hit very hard, so it's a timing game, but don't neglect this powerful arrow you have in your quiver. Side note, however, and hot tip, I've tried it and it doesn't work on non-elite dogs. Okay. The specialization of choice is for now the grenade launcher or the demolitionist, as I don't have my survivalist maxed out and I'm working on it. Please don't judge me. But ideally, to fully complete this build, I'd recommend it looks something like this. Survivalist as the specialization, as group members get 10% bonus damage to targets with status effect, and I get 10% skill haste while I'm in cover, which allows me an even quicker cooldown on my skills. So there you have it, the Team Resistance Legendary CC build. I hope that this build guide was informative and helpful towards you completing your potential CC build for the hardest content in the game. Remember that optimized builds for the legendary missions is just one part of the equation to a successful run. Team and build synergy mixed with effective communication is what takes the gameplay to the next level and what increases your chances of beating it with relative ease. Be sure to tune into our weekly streams to see this and other builds we've showcased on our channel in action, and feel free to ask any questions you may have on our live chats, and either I or our moderators will be more than happy to answer it. Thank you once again for the amazing show of support from the community for what we do here at Team Resistance. We really appreciate it and promise to always deliver quality and helpful content going forward. So from me, Chello, and all of us here at Team Resistance, we wish you well. Stay safe and take care now. Cheers.